Keir Starmer is on the brink of a political collapse that could define his leadership long before the next general election. What began as a calculated pivot to repair Britain's relationship with the EU has morphed into a raging inferno of backlash, rebellion, and deep suspicion, both inside Parliament and across traditional Labour strongholds. The powder keg was ignited when Starmer's proposed EU deal became public. It grants European fishing fleets access to UK waters until 2038, a move that has infuriated coastal communities from Cornwall to Grimsby. Fishermen, once staunch opponents of Labour's Brexit hesitations, are now accusing him of betrayal. They marched in protest, waving banners that read, "We voted for sovereignty, not to feed Brussels," and describing the deal as a national sellout of jobs and identity. For those living in these regions, the promise of Brexit freedom is fast unravelling, and Labour's EU realignment feels like a dagger in the back. On top of that, the youth mobility scheme, lauded by Starmer's circle as a sensible way to build bridges with Europe, is being derided by critics as a backdoor return to free movement. Thousands of young EU nationals are now able to live and work in Britain with minimal immigration controls, something Brexit voters explicitly rejected. The phrase, undermining sovereignty, has become a rallying cry among disillusioned Labour stalwarts and red wall conservatives alike. Inside Westminster, alarms are ringing. A no-confidence motion is being floated, and already more than 30 MPs have privately expressed support for a leadership challenge. Former allies and tight-lipped shadow ministers are quietly considering resignations, prepared to send warm-up warnings ahead of what could become a full-blown exodus from the front bench. A resignation watch list is reportedly in circulation, and insiders admit that chaos is now routine inside Labour HQ. Morale is sinking, trust has frayed, and word is leaking. Starmer's inner circle negotiated the EU deal almost entirely in secret, sidelining Parliament and sidelining dissenting voices. The result is stalemate and fury. Traditional Labour supporters, councillors, volunteers and voters are abandoning the party. In Doncaster, an ex-Labour voter screamed, "He sold us out. It's not just about the EU, it's a cultural revolt." Social media is alight with hashtags like number Starmer out and number no confidence now. Local party offices have been forced to lock their doors against angry picketers. This isn't just policy resistance. This is pure betrayal on an emotional and regional level. Parliament is taking notice. Conservatives are circling the deal, calling for a full vote in the Commons, keenly aware that each rebellion within Labour could unlock significant political advantage. Reform UK is already hailing Starmer as their best ally, with Nigel Farage mocking him as the unwitting campaigner for their cause. Polls have shown a noticeable uptick in support for reform in key Leave voting constituencies, a surge that could turn into a collapse of traditional left-right allegiances if Labour doesn't reverse course. Even Brussels is unsettled by the chaos. Reports say EU officials were caught off guard by the severity of the backlash, now fearing Britain may lurch into prolonged political instability just as negotiations are due to kick off deeper trade discussions. The optics are bleak. A political gamble that was meant to reset relationships is now threatening to set the entire UK agenda on fire. Inside the shadow cabinet, divisions are obvious. Names like Angela Rayner, West Streeting and Lisa Nandy are being floated as potential placeholder leaders, serving as a lifeboat if Starmer falls. "The base is gone," one insider admitted. "We need someone who can reconnect with the country." Others are less diplomatic, talking openly of leadership spill procedures and emergency votes. These conversations are happening against a backdrop of dire warnings from across industry. Fishermen are prepared to stage rolling protests. Farmers, steelworkers, and small manufacturers are warning that regulatory ties to Brussels could threaten jobs. They see this not as compromise, but as surrender, a betrayal of British self-determination and economic independence. Media coverage has gone into overdrive. Headlines describe Labour as imploding under its own contradictions. Reporters are lining up, cameras trained on shuttered constituency offices, local town halls, fishing harbours. MPs are going silent, not refusing interviews from fear of being quoted, but because they don't want furthering the narrative of collapse. Instead, they offer terse, internal-only reassurances. Trust the process, they say. We've got a plan. But when pressed for detail, the silence confirms what everyone already suspects. That plan may no longer exist. Starmer himself is reportedly furious. In closed-door briefings, he branded these critics disloyal, accusing them of undermining both the message and the mission. But in politics, burning discipline often becomes too tight to hold. When Starmer moves to discipline rebellious MPs, he risks deepening the rift or triggering a wave of grief at the heart of the party. With the no-confidence letters already circulating and numbers of dissenting votes quietly counted, the countdown to July 1st is now brutal. If enough shadow ministers, who, by tradition, are expected to vote with the leader, toss in the towel or find themselves aligned with Conservative or Reform-led amendments, Starmer could be forced to step down in the coming weeks. His leadership, once defined by steady pragmatism, is now defined by crisis. But what's remarkable is the scale of the uproar. We're not just seeing social media anger or one-off demonstrations. We're seeing councillors resign in protest, local campaigns collapse, visits from shadow ministers cancelled, constituency offices closed in the face of mob anger. This is grassroots rebellion of the kind that doesn't happen overnight. It happens when people feel truly betrayed. Starmer's core narrative, a new social contract, images of a new consensus, Labour rising, exists ironically within the wreckage of trust. The EU deal was supposed to be the centrepiece of that contract, a reset that would unleash growth, secure investment, recover partnerships. But instead, it fractured the coalition he painstakingly built between Remain and Leave voices, between urban progressives and rural communities. For Labour, it feels like they never asked permission, furious about a deal forged and announced without consultation or clarity. Now, with each passing day, this crisis is metastasizing. There are growing whispers about a snap election, not because Labour wants it, but because Conservatives are sensing blood. They smell division. They smell weakness. Reform is riding the momentum. The left-right divide has been recast as permission versus sovereignty, and for many Brexit voters, that wall just went up again, even if by accident. Yet despite the backlash, one key question remains. Can Starmer still pull a magnet out of this firestorm? He will need to quickly offer some form of public rescue, a retrenchment deal, a public apology, perhaps even a walk back from key elements of the EU arrangement. He'll need to re-anchor Labour in the hearts of communities who feel abandoned, and that requires more than sound bites. He needs credible commitments, fishing fleets excluded indefinitely, stricter controls on free movement, or a referendum on the final deal. Without that, the clock is steadily ticking. The next 72 hours could determine whether Starmer steps back from the deal personally and starts rebuilding, or doubles down and sacrifices political capital in the hope that history will vindicate his strategy. But politics is unforgiving. And if Labour cannot close this breach, they will pay the price in votes, seats, and perhaps even their leader. For now, we're watching what many are calling the beginning of a new Labour civil war. It's not just policy, it's identity, it's betrayal, it's a referendum of trust in motion. And unless Starmer can convince both Parliament and the country he is listening, and that he still stands for something more than power, the next chapter may be written in resignation letters, not manifesto pages. This was today's deep dive into the unfolding drama at the heart of British politics. Thank you for watching Info Britain, where we bring you verified, in-depth updates on everything shaping the UK. If you found this analysis helpful, please like, comment and subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a report on the moments that matter.